Hey y'all, we are back with another Mighty Multimedia. This is another reviews. We missed a week, but it happens. Life gets in the way. I can't even really remember if it was like Thanksgiving break or just work and other things like that. Again, just life couldn't find the time to sit down and review and record an episode, as well as some of it was just not having the time to get into some of these different media that I then need to review and record, obviously. But we're back, and these are some pretty good ones that I think we have here. Some are a little bit of a catch up. Some is kind of right on the cusp of exactly where the popular zeitgeist is. I am thinking about really breaking up some of these into smaller chunks to see if that might get a little bit more traction, a little bit more views, because it's a little bit more digestible. So I might be playing with how I'm kind of recording this, so just kind of bear with me there if it's a little odd, a little different than what I normally do, just because it's kind of set towards that mindset. Okay, so this next one is a new-ish anime, I think, that I watched. I don't know if anyone would be incredibly interested in it, but I saw it, so I'm going to review it here. It is called Promare. Right, so I don't think I'm going to do these last ones in their own individual pieces, but I think this will be, so kind of moving away from that. But this will be good. I think this will interest at least some of you here. But it wasn't fantastic. I wasn't incredibly impressed. There was a lot of nonsense, a lot of just insanity going on. It's focusing on and glorifying firefighters a lot, which is an interesting choice for an anime, I would say. It is not subtle in any sense of the word, just the complete opposite of subtle. Painfully unsubtle. Really could have used a lot more showing rather than telling here. But even the one that was at least an attempt at some kind of allegory or metaphor or something, whether it be a race or religion or sexuality, something like that, was the burnish, which is the whole point of this character of this movie, that there is people that are mutated, they say, to control fire or whatever. But it's very on the nose, and they talk about it very on the nose. They're like, no burnish can be good or whatever. They're all bad. It's not that they're who they are. It's just that they are what they are. Stuff like that. Just, again, incredibly not subtle. The main character, Gallo is his name, just doesn't listen to anyone at all. Is proud of how stupid or whatever he is, and says it over and over again. I don't know, that's not really a main character that I'm incredibly interested in. I guess you can focus that on or relate that to some of other anime characters or other just focus characters like that. But this one was just particularly, just too much. Everything was just ratcheted up too much. Again, just the visuals on this was too much, ratcheted up too much, too stylized, off-putting, too fast and in your face, and flames and water and everything going everywhere, movement, just too much. My sister was saying that it was the same animation studio that did, which one was it? I think they called it like the Twins, the Galactic Twins or something, episode from the Star Wars Visions, the first season, actually. And I'm thinking about doing an episode on those kind of like multi-animation studios. Let me know if you'd like to see that. But it did that, and I didn't love that animation style, so it goes to show that I didn't like this either. It was just too much. So there's this whole point that Leo or Leon, whatever his name is, the head burnish kid, makes, that it's like his creed or whatever. We burnish don't kill unless we have to. So first of all, sure, I guess you're not doing that, but you're shooting fire. Your power is to shoot fire. So you are giving people terrible, third-degree burns or whatever, if not worse, and, probably killing many people, even if you don't have to in some capacity. At the beginning, what were they even doing? When they first saw him, they were just, like, destroying a building. Some people definitely died in that. You didn't have to do that. So I thought some of that didn't exactly line up, but also at the same time, you know, totally justified in killing people, dude. I don't think you really need to worry about it that much. I mean, you're being hunted down, you're being genocided. I don't know if that's a word, but you're being genocided. I think it's okay if you kill a few people. Maybe you don't want to for PR reasons or whatever. But yeah, just saying that doesn't exactly match up. I was reading this and I have another note here that just says, why is the whole point of this movie that the main character is an idiot? I kind of already talked about that, but just to double down, I don't understand. That's just not, shouldn't be a plot point. It shouldn't be a major plot point of anything. Please don't do that. Okay, and then just to kind of finish this up real quick, going through the plots, right? So it turns out that the burners think they're mutated or whatever, but not really. They are fire-based life forms that are in a different dimension, but then there was a rift in the center of the earth, I think, that they're seeping out of a little bit, and then they just get into people in some ways, and that gives them fire powers, and it also gives them anger and wanting to burn things. So that's not good, because it's then destroying the world or something like that. It's making the core seep up and blow some things up, blow the world up, I guess. I don't know, there's kind of a lot going on, I guess. But then there's, they go through this dude who is a really big scientist. He's a really smart guy, but he disappeared a while ago or whatever. He explains all of this to them, and then he gives them a big robot that is just kind of coincidental that Gallo, the firefighter, dude's still just a firefighter, and Leon, the fire bender king, which makes sense. He's a little bit more sense. Coincidentally, they can combine into this machine that they call Deus Ex Machina or whatever. Shut the heck up. Then they give it they give it a different name, not a better name, some nonsense. They combine their names and whatever. It just goes off the rails, man. And because then the mayor is actually a bad guy. You kind of know that for a while, but then he's actually a burnish. Could have guessed that, pretty obvious. But then he also knew the dude, right? Like, he knew the guy, the scientist or whatever that was explaining this, but he tried to kill him, but he uploaded his consciousness. He should have not done that, because then he would have told you that how to fix all this, that you didn't need to abandon the planet, because this guy was just going to abandon the planet and just leave everyone to die. One of the firefighters' sisters is a big scientist at his corporation. She helped a lot of it, and you think she's gonna be good, and then after a while she's just like, no, you gotta make hard sacrifices. Let's leave the whole planet, kill them all, and then she does turn around and make a good decision eventually, but it's a little too late. It's because she has 3 or 4 chances to do something different and just chooses to stick with the rich guy and save her own skin over and over and over again. But then they just kind of fight a lot. There's a lot of fighting going on at the end, and it's classic anime style. You go down, but you don't get beat. Keep trying, keep fighting. And it just goes completely off the rails. And then the giant robot gets up and it releases all the burnish, and there's no more burnish at the end. Yay, I guess. But I mean, I like fire powers. Kind of nonsense. The giant robot is stepping on everybody. You'd think this would be harming people. I don't know. But then this kick-ass theme song gets in at the end, so that saved a lot of it for me. Definitely rambling here because it was a rambling movie. It was too much. If I had to say anything about this, if I had to put a quote for this movie, it'd just be too much. Everything was too stylized. Took everything too far, and then I mean, on the other side there was not enough thinking. So too much in what you actually put in, and not enough thinking about what you could have put in. Got to meet in the middle there somewhere. That would probably fix a lot of problems. There's a lot of animes that aren't great, like anything else, but this was particularly bad, I think. Sorry to anyone who likes this. this was just kind of ragging on this the whole time. Promare was not for me. Switching gears here, we are getting away from shows and movies, getting into written medium here. And the next one we are doing is the book Dune. Right, so first thing to get out of the way, right, this is, oh, it says it right there, now a major motion picture. So this has been turned into a movie. I just said we're not going to talk about movies, but just briefly. And it was really good. It was a part one, so there's going to be more of it. And you can see where it stops. Obviously, in this book, there's a lot more to go. But I really liked the movie, just to get that out with. And similar to Invincible, the movie followed the book's format and layout really, really closely. So there's that as well. If you like the movie, you're probably going to like the book, and vice versa. The book starts out just getting right into it with a lot of mystery and intrigue. You know, there's this kind of test that they do. Again, it's in the movie with Paul and the Reverend Mother's doing it to them. Just starting you off really running. The big thing that I noticed immediately, because it's really apparent and really early, and then continues throughout the entire book, is this kind of like spoiling itself idea, right? Because they give you these history points here, and they're telling you what's going to happen in the book before it actually happens, but before it's actually going on. And it's odd, like it's weird at the beginning, I think. And then I'm just jumping ahead here, because Paul gets these really like prescient powers, clairvoyant powers, where he can see the future, not perfectly, but a lot in many instances. Where again, he's telling you exactly what's going to happen in the plot of this book before it happens. So you're kind of like, I kind of just wanted to read the book and see that happen. But it's done to really good effect, at least. If you're going to do that, it has to be well done. And it is well done in this. The earliest example, and maybe one of the best examples, is they tell you really early on that Leto, Paul's father, is going to die. Not even in the history lessons, but just the Reverend Mother telling Paul, there's no hope for the father, I think is what he says. But it takes a lot longer than you think it's going to, is one of it as well. So, but it's also just, you learn to like him, right? You know he's gonna die. They tell you he's gonna die, but then you see how great he is, how he's really making all these preparations and everything. I was a really just good moral guy, and he's making friends with everyone, and on this new planet when they go to Arrakis, and making sure everyone is in the best position they can be, and using his wealth and influence to make people comfortable and just help them out with whatever they can. And he knows there's some kind of plot, and you're going along, you're thinking maybe he can defeat it, something like that, but then you're like, no, it's not going to work. But then you start convincing yourself that he can definitely get through with it because he's doing all the right things. And then he finally actually kicks the bucket. So kind of brilliant in some ways, subverting expectations, putting out exactly what's going to happen, and then going backwards and explaining why, and making you care about what inevitably happens. It was impressive. I just wanted to give some love to the world that Frank Herbert is the author of this, by the way, if you didn't already see that or didn't already know, that he just really builds out here. So just kind of read some of this. So just the technology, so the shields that some of them wear, right? The still suits at the Fremen with the desert, the ornithopters that they call, in many ways they're just helicopters, but again, it's just a different thing. And the glow globes, again, that the Fremen use to give them light in the caves and everything. Moving on also to the politics of this world, of this universe. So there is the big emperor, but there's also the different houses. So the big ones we're talking about are Atreides and Harkonnen. But there's so many other different ones, and you can see that there's stronger ones and there's weaker ones, and there's ones that are older and newer and ones that are closer to the emperor, closer to not. Then there's the guild, which is all the power of trade and the economy and money and such, but it's separate from the emperor. So it's like, who are you really gonna cuddle up to and making alliances and all that, Game of Thrones style. Then there's the different kind of religions ideas. So there's the Bene Gesserit, which is super important. There's also the Orange Bible, and I guess what the remnants of Christianity, which shows you that this is more of a post-apocalyptic universe and world than anything else, that everything came from Earth, which is a good little piece. They don't go too much into that, but it's certainly there. I think Frank Herbert is just making you appreciate that. And then also there's the Fremen religion and everything. I guess is kind of based and crafted and morphed from some Bene Gesserit maybe a long time ago. But they're legends. So the Kwisatz Haderach with the Bene Gesserit, and then the Muad'Dib, something to that effect. I'm trying to think of these words. I'm probably butchering some of these, for the Fremen mythology, the Fremen religion. But there's just so much going on, so many different cultures and worlds and technologies and politics and everything. It feels so lived in. So bravo. Doing more of getting just through the plot. So after Leto dies because the Harkonnens invade and betray them with the Emperor, by the way, Jessica and Paul go into the desert, and they, after a while, they get kind of adopted into the Fremen. I'm really skipping a lot of beats here, but it's all right. We got to move relatively quickly. They get adopted into this Fremen camp, and then it builds from there. I was thinking it's just more how the plot has to go and whatever, but they're just really forsaking everything they knew their whole lives for a lot of it. Obviously their lives were turned upside down, but they're just like, let's just totally do this. Some of it's for survival, obviously, but they live on a whole world, right? I mean, Caladan, they live on a whole world. They might have others. Just get off the planet and you can probably go back to your army and do whatever. I don't know, this worked out clearly in the end, but I don't know, that was kind of an odd choice, I thought. But just having the characters that you know and just introducing them into a new environment with unfamiliar characters is always good. That's a great way to get things moving along. Obviously, this is Jessica and Paul, and they have no idea what to do with the desert. They always live their lives in cities and palaces and more like water abundant places where it had beaches and forests and everything. So all of that, if you want to just get a character that you establish and then put them into an uncomfortable environment, is a great literary device. Herbert does it to great effect here. There's a lot of spiritual stuff, especially with the Fremen, but with other ones too. Really delve into a religion, as I mentioned a little bit, but also a lot of drugs as well. A lot of it is hallucinogens. Whether it's quite on the nose or not, really all of them have some type of view here. There's a lot of different drugs being used, and there's a lot of kind of altered states of consciousness that are and created and intertwined with such hallucinogens and such like that. It seems to be becoming a little bit more maybe not accepted yet, but at least interested in, and more science wants to study this and such on PTSD and depression and alcoholism and stuff like that, because it can maybe help some people. But whether it's like seeing the future or being more aware of the world around you, or more in tune with the past, or more in tune with your people, there's just a lot of different, kind of mentions with altered consciousness. Then we get a huge time jump, which is pretty crazy. It's been like 2 years, I think, something like that. I really was not expecting that. They go forward with a lot. They allow room to breathe. Not they, just Frank Herbert, actually. I don't know why I'm using they, because all these other ones are a lot of people established, but Frank Herbert allows room to breathe, which I appreciate a lot. We get a little glimpse into what the Harkonnens are doing over these 2 years, just forever underestimating the masses. You know, they don't want to believe that the Fremen are really capable in any way, that they're organized in any way. So, you know, if you're gonna do that, you deserve to get overthrown and die. That's just what's gonna happen. And them doing it, I mean, the Harkonnens are just so unashamedly evil. They're just giant slug creatures. You know, they're killing people all over the place. They're having these fixed gladiatorial matches. It doesn't get more just, I am a bad guy, just wearing it across your forehead than that. And a lot of these other shows and movies and media portray evil pretty obviously as well. Star Wars is probably the big example. Darth Vader and Sidious both just look utterly evil. There's just no way around it. And then with the stormtroopers, they look like a frown on their helmet, and all the other guys just in their military uniforms. It just looks like a big evil military, which it is. And you know, that's making me think, when you're thinking of a, you know, universe space-centered soap opera, whatever you want to call it, that's just so grand in scale and all that, you immediately think Star Wars. That immediately feels like the original. But I was just curious, and I went back and looked at the dates, and Dune actually predates Star Wars by a good amount. I forget what it is. It's like either 62, 63, something like that is when Dune came out. And obviously the first Star Wars, then Star Wars, now is A New Hope, came out in 77. So I don't know if George Lucas got a lot of inspiration from this. He must have got some of it. This is what was out there, right? He always says, you know, his was samurai and cowboys, and then just what if they were in space, basically, which is true. You can see the inspirations there, certainly. But this predated it. So this established a lot of the tropes with interstellar travel and different planets and all of this different stuff. So you gotta respect it. You gotta give Dune its due for being the actual OG. Just wrapping a lot of this up, because we need to go quick. These can't be too long, but he's just really building power and everything, and they're taking control of the spice, and he finally rides the big worms, which he needs to do or whatever. And the Fremen are all about the leader has to be the strongest, so it's like the best survives. So if you want to challenge your leader, if you kill them, you become the leader, things like that. And I love how Paul is just like pity on your traditions and everything. Those are absolute garbage. He just says it, I'm not gonna kill the best man I know, basically, which is the one who teaches him everything that he ended up knowing from the Fremen culture and their ways, how to fight and all that. That's insane. So I appreciate that as well. The mother goes through what ends up being the great mothers, again, whatever they call them. I used the exact phrase well earlier, of the Fremen. She drinks this poison and it messes with her mind or whatever, but she's pregnant. And she did know that, so she kind of messed up a little bit. But then they have the baby, and the baby's like a 3-year-old, but it's a baby that comes out completely conscious and as though it's lived the whole life already. That part is pretty creepy. We have Cheney, who is Zendaya in the new movie and is Paul's wife. She's really good. She's a strong female lead. Her and Jessica, the mom, are both strong female leads. Again, in such a book that was a really long time ago. It's not Princess Leia getting captured and needing to get saved and everything from Star Wars. But we're moving along, and Paul is getting more into this fully Messiah complex, but also, he can see the future and everything. He knows what's going to happen. He keeps talking about this jihad. Obviously that is in the Islamic culture, but he kind of Herbert kind of co-opts that into this big slaughter across the universe. and he was trying to avoid that, and the way he does that is he eventually gets the Emperor and the Harkonnens to come into Arrakis, and he traps them there with some cannons and stuff, and he gets on the ship and he tells them, he gets them like an economic trap, which is good, right? Because they start this rebellion, and in so many movies and shows in rebellions, you don't get to see the fruits of their labor, the conclusion of the rebellion. I mean, either that or the rebellion loses, or they'll just tell you that they lose. But even if they do lose, in a lot of them, they start the rebellion. That's what the movie's about, because starting the rebellion is the big, impactful, dramatic, movie-like event that you want to watch. And then the rest of it is tough and boring and slow sometimes, but they'll get it to that point where it's really started, and then they'll cut the movie out, and then they'll just explain the rest of it in text quickly or whatever. But it's also, rebellions are hard and dirty business to get done, and it's really hard to finish if you're these low people. And you're starting this rebellion against these really high, sophisticated, entrenched class of overlords, of oppressors. It's really difficult to succeed in overthrowing them. And in this, you show them, and the way they do it is they have this economic tie where they tell them that we can destroy the spice because everything relies on the spice. You need the spice in order for interstellar travel, which they talk about at the beginning, but then they kind of don't mention a lot. But it's important to know, and it's important to keep in mind. But they end up doing that, and it's tough, right? Because that's what you do. If they're so strong, you need to hit them in where it hurts. You need to hit them in their wallet, what they care about, what they depend on. But it's only the first strike. It's like the 1-2 punch. The first punch is I have you in this economic stranglehold, so you can't do anything. You have to listen to what I say. And then the second punch is doing, again, their formalistic thing of Paul marrying the Emperor's daughter, and then also kind of telling him to screw off, so that he legitimately become the next emperor and the natural line of succession to take it on. He also has to fight Fade Routha, which is the big evil guy, because a Baron Harkonnen, the big slug guy who he orchestrated the whole betrayal of Leto and stuff, he died kind of a little bit unceremoniously. But this is the one who is capable, because he's a big fat slug or whatever. This is the guy who's capable and can actually fight him. There's this poison stuff. It's a really like slow, dramatic fight back and forth. It's really drawn out. Frank Herbert is not afraid of taking his time with this again and letting you breathe. They're just going over the movements and like the thoughts between them and staring himself down. Fade Routha is really a talker, so he's talking it back and forth, and they get in little grapples and they back out, and then there's little poison daggers and stuff. So much really good end to a climax, because you get all the intelligent stuff, and then also you get the big fight to wrap it all up as well. Oh, and then Paul's firstborn son dies in the bombing and everything. You kind of think for a second that maybe he'll lose his, really robotic cool or whatever of him being the Messiah and freak out, but he doesn't. He kind of plays with it a little bit, that he really is not a fan of that, as you do be when your firstborn son is slaughtered in the thralls of war. But it doesn't make him lose his cool, and he stays the path. And then he ends up ruling the universe and whatever, and the Fremen are good, and now his family's in charge, and the evil Harkonnens and the evil Emperor, basically kind of the evil Emperor, are gone. And Fremen will be really good. Oh, because the Sardaukar, which are the Emperor's big elite troops, turn out to be recruited from Fremen, because they live in the desert, so they're really hardcore people. That's a good little twist there that they throw in as they're doing that. But and then it ends there. I've heard that because there's plenty more Dune books after this, that it gets even crazier from here. Because I guess there's this piece too, that Paul is a Harkonnen, because Jessica's a Bene Gesserit, and they don't tell her, they don't tell them their lineage, their family lineage, because they're all about bloodlines, unless sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it turned out that I think it was the Baron, actually, that was Jessica's father, but then they took her away. So it was the Atreides and the Harkonnen bloodlines, because the Atreides are cousins with the Emperor's family. So it was like the perfect mix of genetics that made him the Kwisatz Haderach, or more than the Kwisatz Haderach, as he says over and over again. But I've heard in Harkonnen, he turns into the big fat slug kind of, and really rules the universe with an iron fist. Paul Muhab, no, was it Muad'Dib? I don't even remember his Fremen name into it. His Fremen name is Usul, but then he has another Fremen name. Damn, I can't remember that. I'll put it on the screen once I get it later. But I haven't seen that. Maybe that'll be interesting. Maybe it won't. But great book. Absolutely have to read. I did do it on an audiobook, but the audiobook was great because I had this, similar to what I explained earlier. It was more of a play, so there's different voices for each of the characters and the narrator. That was awesome. If you want to do that, absolutely do it. But now I appreciate the movie better. Looking forward to the second part of it as well. Highly recommend. It's a classic. It's from a long time ago, the 1960s, but it totally holds up. Get it. Okay, we are at our final review. I didn't mention that Dune was our penultimate review, but it was retroactive. Remember that. But this last one, switching mediums again into comic books. This is Batman, 10 Knights of the Beast. So this is in 1988, so it's the dawn of the USSR. It really uses this time frame and this, political climate situation to its advantage. Feels like an awesome Cold War spy thriller. Giving you the plot, just a really good overview. Again, the Soviet Union is collapsing, so a really hardcore kind of corner of the Soviet government isn't wanting to let this go or whatever, so they dispatch the most highly trained, most deadly, most just invisible assassin that the USSR has ever had to go disrupt and destroy the US's Star Wars program. So that's their missile defense system that Reagan actually turned out to be bluffing, which is a really funny story in itself. Named it Star Wars, first of all. That just sounds so unserious, but he was claiming that they were on track to create missile defense systems that could basically shoot nukes from the sky before they came anywhere close to hitting the US mainland. But it was a total bluff. They weren't anywhere near close. They were just trying to ramp up and inject even more craziness into the technological race between the USSR and the US that eventually mostly ended up bankrupting the Soviet Union and led to the collapse of that and the end of the Cold War. There's more in that. I've talked about this. It's like these 8 big military people that at the end of it was a lot of cultural injections into the USSR that did away with a lot of their more hardcore ideas and practices, and they eventually tried to take over the government because that was Gorbachev, and he was kind of really taking the side. And then Yeltsin came in, also kind of just took over the government or whatever, but even though he was a little bit better of a guy. And then some shenanigans happened, and we had Putin, and now it's kind of back to mostly what it was. Beside the point. Getting the Star Wars program, so the way that you disrupt it and destroy it is to kill all the people involved, and the biggest one being Reagan. So he's the kind of ultimate guy there. Okay, so just to show you, this is the unfortunate part about it, and it's definitely a product of its time, is that the KGB doesn't look great. That's his kind of first real appearance. Again, unfortunately, real BDSM type vibes. He could look a lot cooler modern days. He at least normally has pants, but he still does have that weird-ish look. But maybe it's just to kind of put you off balance, so then it's easier to kill you. But he doesn't really need that because it's really good at killing. I think they think it looks cool. maybe, or whatever, which is tough. The pace of the comic is really good. It builds up the hype well, but it also doesn't like let any time go to waste. Before Batman even like knows what's going on, like 3 out of the 9 or 10 people, not 10 targets, right? 10 is the beast. 10 targets are already dead, so he's already behind. It's already crazy, and he kills a lot of people. So it definitely moves fast, but also takes its time to build it up. I love just the comic itself and the colors. It's just a little bit more older. The feel of the paper. They just don't make comic books like they used to. I appreciate it. It's really nice white, kind of like silky expensive paper, and it's all glossed on there. And the pictures are really close and hyper stylized and hyper detailed and everything. But I love this old newsprint. I just think it's so much better. This is one of the covers of it. I don't know if that's one of the best ones, but just the whole aesthetic, just the whole feel. If you're a big fan of comic books and you read some older ones, I really do encourage you to try to find these older prints, because normally there will be some newer prints. But get the older ones if you can. A lot of times they're cheaper. Sometimes they're really expensive because they're a little rare or whatever. But if you can get these older ones, do it, because the feel and the vibe is just so much better. It takes you right back to that time, back when comics were good. The KG Beasts, damn, that's kind of hard to say. Funny, it doesn't matter. It's just like the weird wordplay. His tactics to kill people are interesting. Just kind of wanted to go over this because some of them are pretty normal and pretty effective. Things like poison in OJ, poison gas in like an OJ can or whatever, poisoning food at a gala. A lot of poison for like a big macho man or whatever, but hey, whatever gets the job done. But at the gala, he kills like 70 people, which is pretty crazy. And then using, a rocket launcher to shoot down a plane, which actually doesn't end up working because they switch the planes or whatever. But either way, those are classic assassin type moves, poison and explosives and stuff. He also uses guns and knives and everything. But then there's also things like throwing cinder blocks down an elevator shaft at people because they like stopped the elevator shaft and he just starts chucking it down. But it is really good. So these are him throwing it down, and the author does it to really good effect. He takes the panels that are broken up and you see them really falling down. So another example of just kind of like one of those intense moments is when, and this is a famous one in this, is when his KGB's arm gets trapped and he ends up cutting it off. I pulled out the panel here too, just showing the emotion of each one. And don't even actually show, obviously, the hand getting cut off, but it's really intense, just the back and forth between Batman and the KGB's, their thoughts and emotions. They got the speech bubbles going and everything. But a great way to show that your villain means business is for them to cut off their own hand rather than get captured. I mean, right? The game of who is the mole is really good, I think. So there is, let me see, the CIA agent, there's like a main FBI agent, there's a bunch of other FBI agents, there is a KGB agent who's sent to help. It's just like enough suspects to keep you guessing, make sure that there's enough ones that you don't exactly know who it is, but then, it narrows it down eventually. It's pretty weird how Robin, this is Jason Todd in here, which is funny, the few years that he was actually Robin, just plays no part in this whatsoever. I mean, he's in it, he's in the story, you can see him, but he just never does anything interesting or meaningful. And it's not even the point where he's like, there's not a quote where, Batman says, "It's too dangerous for you, you can't do this, you have to stay aground," and he just doesn't do anything, he just barely shows up. It would probably even be better if the Beast had like injured Robin or something like that, and then he was sidelined so he couldn't be actually in it. It would have given Batman a little bit more reason to be scared, be at tension with him, have just a back and forth with him, have a little bit more revenge or whatever. I get it, you just wanted to use Batman itself and him only be there, but you have to have a reason in some way. Either just don't show Robin and have this be something else, or do something with it. And in the end, it all goes down. They end up saving a few people, so not everyone dies, but it does end up looking like he killed everyone but Reagan, so Reagan is the final one. So he takes a shot at President Reagan. There's some good little bits and pieces there, using both Commissioner Gordon and Alfred as decoys for Reagan while he's still safe. A lot of that is really fun. A little note, if I were to pick the order of killing these people. I would probably kill the president first if you really needed to kill the president, because as soon as you kill these other people and you know the president is on your list, the president is going to be way more difficult to kill. Obviously, if you kill the president, and there's going to be, you know, a bunch of different security and stuff, but you could wait till the heat dies down or whatever, or even, you know, still kill these people because these other people are not going to be the ones that have all the security and stuff. That just seemed like a relatively bad idea for a really intelligent and experienced super spy or whatever. So then the last bit is that they finally get the beast, and then Batman follows him into the sewers, and they're both just incredibly tired and worn out and beat up. And I've heard people split hairs, and there's a retcon that says that Batman sent someone back for the beast after he locked him in a closet or whatever, but he really just leaves him. He just leaves him to die, which is crazy. Here, I'll show you the panel there. He just puts him in there, locks him away, and then just walks out. And just never comes back. He doesn't even, I don't even remember exactly what he says. He just says, the CIA guy says, "What about the beast?" And Batman says, "You don't need to worry about him anymore." It's not like, you should probably go get him, he's down there. It's just, no, don't worry about it. He's gonna starve and die in there. So that's just, I've heard a lot of different people kind of really try to retcon that around, but there's no way of getting around it whatsoever in this actual one. And I appreciate it. You know, he was too worn out. This guy was too dangerous. Batman just recognized that he needed to take him out. He wasn't gonna kill him, you know, he wasn't gonna stab him or shoot him or whatever, but if this guy wasn't gonna stop, it was gonna keep causing problems, I'll put him in a timeout and let him starve to death. Overall, to wrap up, I love this look of Batman. Let me find a good Batman page. Harder than you'd think, I guess, right? But just that blue, the muscular and everything. I love a lot of the self-narration. You can see in that there's just no dialogue in this whole page. It's just all self-narration. So that's all good. Again, another one, a product of its time, but one that I've been wanting to read and one that I would recommend for any Batman fan. So that is it. We're done here. I think I might split this up a little bit more. We'll see how that works. To really milk this, because I'm gonna be getting some busy in the holidays and wrapping up with some stuff as well. I do have another topics planned. I talked about with speeches and stuff, so we'll see that, and then we'll see some stuff for the holidays. But as far as these new reviews go, I'm really gonna try to split them up. Let's see if that works. I hope you guys like them. But either way, that is all from me. It's been another great one. These were some more great reviews. Awesome to talk about. Signing off.